What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. So, I was just gonna do a regular Unbothered today, but last night when I got to Champagne's, I got told by Diaz, as soon as I got there, that my good friend Cassie Dang had died. And then immediately after, I started getting text messages from other friends telling me that Cassie had passed. And if you really know me, you know that Cassie was my actual girl. Like, that bitch is so fucking obnoxious. And I say that in the best way possible. Because, I mean, like, she had this manic energy, and she was. She was such a great person. Like, I can find a bad thing to say about anybody. But with Cassie, it was just like she had this manicky energy, and she would get on my nerves with it, because she'd hit me up and she'd be like, "Babe, I heard you got an argument with so and so. What happened with that?" And it would just be like, "Cassie, will you just stop being fucking nosy for a minute?" But she wasn't really nosy. She was actually genuinely concerned about me, which, if you know me and you know my antics, I've been at it so long that there's nothing to worry about. But at the same time, Cassie had this kind of mama bear energy that she gave all of the comics. And that's why you're seeing so many comedians on Facebook right now talking about, what a great person she was and what a great energy she was. And she was at Comedy Store all the time. I can't say I remember exactly when I met Cassie. I know we really started hanging out in about 2015. And so, she came to my place with her dog. Now she has had Dolores Dang, which I hope Dolores is getting a place to live. But at the time, I can't remember the name of her dog at that time. Zoe Pup. That was Zoe, and she would call her Zoe Pup. It was a big dog, and Bijou loves to punk out big dogs. And Cassie was so patient with Bijou, and her dog was also very patient with Bijou. And I just remember that day we went to MacArthur Park, and like, the guys were catcalling Cassie like crazy. Because here's the deal with Cassie. She's Asian. At first, she thought I was Asian, but like almost every Asian in my life, what happens with Asian people and me is they assume I'm Asian at first, then they ask me what I am, I tell them I'm Mexican, and then in their heads they just decide I'm Asian anyway. Like, that's what it was as far as Cassie went. So I think that's also part of why our relationship was what it was. But Cassie being an Asian woman, like, a lot of Asian women are known for being very thin and having that very petite figure. And Cassie was a thick Asian girl. And it's one of the things she really liked about herself. Like, more recently, she lost some weight and stuff like that and went on this health kick. And so she had gotten herself down to like a lower weight, but Cassie was always going to be curvy. That was just the way her body was. And so I remember the guys catcalling her like crazy and her just not. And it was during the time when everybody was talking about catcalls, and, there was the big feminist push to be like, everything is a victimization. And Cassie was just so not concerned with that. She also wasn't impressed with it. She wasn't like, glad that the guys were catcalling her. But she was just so unbothered, like literally unbothered by what the world's perception of her was. And it's one of the things I liked about her most. Cassie was a lawyer. She worked for CAA. She was just this really like boss bitch. And yeah, she was like figuring things out and regrouping and like, always finding new projects to be involved with. She was working with the Failure to Render people who do the virtual comedy, virtual reality comedy. And she had a lot going on already, and she was always looking for more to get into. She was very driven. And so the thing with Cassie was that last night I thought to record, but I also knew that I hadn't, and I still haven't fully processed it, but at least after a night's sleep, I feel better talking and I don't feel as raw. Because it's weird to say it, but I felt both raw and numb at the same time, because this is the time of year that's really hard for me, because it's just a really hard time for me, because my sister died Halloween night, November 1st, and then her birthday is December 8th. So basically from around Halloween, right before leading up to uh, at least December 8th, it's just a really hard time for me. And I talked about last night how I was drinking these protein shakes because my body just doesn't want to eat right now. And I know that that's not healthy for me. And I know that I need to get my calories in. And so, it's just a hard time for me. So when I got told about Cassie last night, I really wasn't ready for that. And, um, you know, I wanted to be mad at her, because so, maybe some people get mad at me for saying this, but here's the deal with me and Cassie. Like, Cassie used to remind me all the time, because I would tell her, like, certain things, and Cassie is very analytical. And so when I would tell her about certain things, she would be like, yeah, you know that, and I know that, but the average person doesn't think that way. And so it got shortened even more to where, in more recent times when we would talk and I would tell her things that not everybody would understand, she would be like, babe, don't forget, they don't think like us. So stop trying to make these people think like you that are never going to think like you. They don't think like us. And so I'm going to say what I want to say, and anybody can think whatever they want. I'm not trying to convince you to think like me. But Cassie had been honest with me about the fact that every once in a while she would party. And everybody knows that right now partying is not a safe thing to do. And then also, when you start getting older, your body's not built to handle a lot of that stuff anyway. And I'm not making it sound like Cassie was she was not a drug addict. She was not at all, it wasn't that kind of situation. But she would occasionally party. And that's something that I had talked to her about, in the way that I was just like, like, when you get older, Cassie, you got to slow down with that stuff. And that was something that I was sent in text that, it was somehow related. And so, you know, not knowing 100%, I'm not going to say anything, but I will say that last night when I wanted to record about this and I was feeling raw about it, I I basically wanted to cuss her out, was what I wanted to do. Just because I don't need to miss another person around this time of year. And then also just the fact that she was such a special person and such a supportive person. And that's why, like, everybody is talking about her right now on Facebook, in the LA comedy community, especially. Because, she was friends with all levels of comics, like at all different points in their careers, like from the biggest comics to like the most open micer. Cassie Dang would be cool with you. She would talk to you. She would make you feel like a human being. Be quick to make you laugh. Be quick to make you smile. Give you a big hug. And, she had such a young look to her and such a young, like, spirit that, she herself was like a little puppy. I mean, like, she was just so happy to run up to you and and now she's gone. And so yeah, I'm not really sure what to say at this point, other than to my LA comic friends or my other comic friends that knew Cassie, or people in the comedy world that knew Cassie. um I feel bad for you all, because I know I know what a hole this leaves in the community, and I'm not even in LA anymore. But I know what a presence Cassie was, and I know from actually being friends with her. Like last time I talked to her on the phone, I was driving back from Austin, and we had a good long chat while I was on my way driving back from Austin, and she was trying to get me to do something with her latest project, and I was being obnoxious and resistant, and she was like, "Babe, I'm trying to help you here, babe." It's like, bitch, leave me alone. I'm fucking driving back from Austin. Talk to me about your life. And we would talk about her dating struggles and like just all the ridiculous stuff friends talk about. And so I know some people will get mad at me for mentioning partying and stuff like that, but one thing I hate about when people die is that everybody tries to turn them into a saint. And I think that's more of like a defense mechanism for the people mourning than for the actual person, even though they'll try to act like, this is to preserve their memory. It's because you shouldn't speak ill of dead. Well, I'm not speaking ill of anybody. I'm just saying that my friend that I knew, we would talk about her partying sometimes. And we all know that there has been bad stuff going around. We all know that fentanyl is a thing. And so I don't know if it's that, but I heard that it was attributable in some way to some kind of substance. And so I feel really bad knowing that I have friends, and I keep like I keep getting told about these friends and these acquaintances from LA that have been dying, and they're all in the comedy world. And like, it's all somewhat mysterious. But whenever it's mysterious, I kind of know what it is. And I just feel like at some point, if we're really friends with each other, if we really love each other, if we're really a community, at some point, we need to be like, all right, you guys, it's time to stop fucking around with this shit. And if you're going to do that shit, I know there's the testing things available, so maybe go that route or whatever it is. Let's go ahead and do whatever we have to do. So like, if you're not going to completely quit partying, which I understand some people just aren't. I'm a grown up. I'm in the entertainment industry. I've been in this business for 20 years now. Like at some point, you got to say, if you're not going to stop partying, then you need to do it in the safest way possible. So if you need to buy the stuff to test it, then go ahead and do that. Or whatever it is that needs to get done. But I need people I know to stop dying unnecessarily, or what I consider unnecessarily, even though some people, including myself, would say that these things all happen on God's time. So maybe there's nothing we can do to avoid it. Maybe it's just me screaming into the air for nothing, and maybe some people are going to get mad at me, but have your fucking feelings. Just don't hit me up about it, because you mourn your way and you do whatever the fuck you want. I'll call out that some of you are acting closer with Cassie right now than you really were. But that happens every time somebody dies. Like, I get angry sometimes with this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Because, like Cassie would say, we didn't think like a lot of people. We don't think like a lot of people. So me, yeah, my friend died, and that's terrible. And now I have another reason to not love this time of year. And I'm going to do my best to just be what I need to be and do what I need to do. But at the same time, if I think about things in the way that I really think about them, there's always a lesson to be learned. And there's always a chance that maybe when something tragic happens, something at least somewhat good can come from it. So if nothing else, maybe, more of us can live in Cassie's spirit in the way that, we be a little bit nicer to each other, be a little bit more welcoming of each other when we can. But if we can also take from it that maybe we can be a little more careful, and I say we even though I don't party, but we can be a little more careful in the way that we handle these things, Like I said, if you're going to do them. And, you know, like I said, I know some people are going to like get mad at me because I even said anything about that, but it is what it is.